These two hiring mistakes have already cost you tens of thousands of dollars in lost momentum. And if you're running an online business or agency right now, you're probably making at least one of these fatal mistakes. My name is Benjamin. I'm the founder of Zaboda, and we've placed over 200 A players from 20 plus different countries for agencies scaling from $50K a month to over $3 million a month. I've watched these two fatal hiring mistakes kill businesses that should have been rocket ships. The first fatal mistake that I see with hiring is something called reactive hiring. This is what it looks like when you do reactive hiring. Everything's going well, everything's growing until it's not. Suddenly you're drowning in ops and you need to hire basically like yesterday. So you panic, you run to a job board, you rush the interviews, and you hire someone who basically seems like they're 80% of the way there. They're good enough because you're desperate. You signed a bunch of clients and suddenly you need to fulfill. Whenever you build something based on desperation, the best result that you can get is mediocrity. You're gonna get mediocre talent, you're gonna have high turnover, you're gonna be stuck in this firefighting mode. The strategy for hiring basically just becomes take someone who's okay or good enough, plug them into this hole and figure it out later when things are going to be less busy. But in reality, it's never less busy if you keep scaling. Bring on more clients and you're stuck in this constant cycle of just hiring the okay options and never actually taking the time to plan out the best possible hire for that position. The best time to hire is as you start signing more and more clients, when you have that upward growth. It's not necessarily when you need to hire someone at this moment. By the time you need to hire someone and you needed someone 2 weeks ago, it's already too late. But instead, if you're hiring proactively, you're hiring from a position of strength. You can take longer to filter the applicants. You can have a higher bar for what's necessary inside of your business. You get to build your team with A players who are already really good and they're supposed to be there, not just someone randomly fish off a LinkedIn job ad or from Upwork or Fiverr. And instead of creating some sort of ChatGPT job description, you can plan the job description out. You can plan out the role. What's the best possible role title that will attract this type of talent? Who exactly do I need? You can come up with a scorecard to evaluate this person 30, 60, 90 days in. If you're hiring at the last possible chance, there's no way that you can do that effectively. The second fatal mistake that I see businesses do again and again when they're going through the hiring process is they're only relying on one interview to make that final decision. This mistake just burns people again and again. You hire the person who seems really good on the interview, but they ghost or the performance drops in the first couple weeks. You hire someone who's super technically skilled, the communication's so poor and the back and forth basically makes you repeat yourself again and again, and that's not adding value to your business. The problem is a lot of these interviews are simply just a performance from the candidate's side. They seem really good on the call, they crushed the interview, they had the right answers. When it comes down to actually executing on what they were hired to do, they fail. And this costs you a lot, not just on the dollar side, but on the time side as well. Imagine it takes you 2 weeks to go through the hiring process. You hire someone, you pay them that first month's salary, they start and you don't actually see a return. So instead of being back at square zero, you're back at square zero minus however many weeks that it took you to get there, plus being out some of your hard-earned cash. And now when you approach hiring again, you're gonna be even more skeptical because you're gonna be like, well, I don't even know what to look for. This person did really well in the interview, or they had all the technical skills. They came from a really good agency, but they just were a flash in the pan. So you don't even know where to begin and what to look for and what to prioritize in a candidate profile. The solution to this fatal mistake is making a very clear test task or test assessment. So what we do here at Zaboda is we run these people through a multi-stage test assessment. Now, if you look at a job description, the test assessment is going to be 80% of what's in that job description, 80% of what they're actually doing on a day-to-day basis. You want to see how do they make decisions once they're actually live. Anybody could put a bunch of skills on a resume. Anyone can say they worked at these different places, but do they actually know how to do it? And the only way you can test that is through a test assessment or letting them loose inside of your business. So if you do a test assessment first, you're going to be able to see how they make decisions when it comes down to it. You should still have the interview. It's very important to verify they are who they say they are, check for any type of red flags, English level, etc. But a short test task is not going to lie to you. It's going to make it very, very clear this person knows what they're talking about. They know the right decisions to make instead of you setting them up in your business and just hoping for the best. And let's just run through a scenario. Imagine you have 3 final candidates. 2 were really good. They aced that interview. The third was a little bit rough on the presentation, but they seemed okay. They seemed technically competent. What you should do in that scenario is run them all through the same test task. Give them 48 hours to complete it. Make sure that it's paid. It doesn't need to be $50, $100, $200. Be something that's at the hourly rate of your job. It gets 1-2 hours for them to complete. And you're going to see at the end of 48 hours who is actually the best choice. It may be that person who wasn't as good as communication, but when they had the opportunity to look at a problem, explain themselves, it's very, very good. The other 2 people who seem really good on the interviews, usually what happens, one of them will stand out with the test task, the other one will basically fail with the test task, and you'll realize, hey, that person was a really, really good interviewer, but they don't actually have the technical skills, to succeed. To recap real quick, you need to hire proactively. Look at your hires as capacity for growth. Yes, you have to front load some salary in certain scenarios. If you're signing clients from paid ads, organic, or whatever channel it is that's giving you most of your leads, as you sign more and more leads, you need to look at your employees, your team members as capacity for growth. X amount of employees means X amount of clients that we can service and X amount of revenue that we can get. That's the proper way to look at it. You always have to front load growth when it comes to employees, because if you hire reactively, you're only going to get what's left over after all the other competitors have already spent the time to hire properly and find the best of the best. The second thing you need to do is have a relevant test task. It's going to be 80% of what the job's about, and you need to have it be a scenario where they're making decisions. You can see the quality of decisions that they're making, because that's really what they're paid for anyway. You write decisions made in the right and appropriate time. You're going to give them 48 hours to do that test task. It's going to be a paid test task, and that's only after you do that first interview with them, so you have finalists to dish out that test task too. So if you're a founder who's tired of the same broken hiring process and doing everything yourself, sifting through the applicants, jumping on a bunch of unqualified interviews, creating test tasks, we're going to show you exactly how to build a world-class team that does not need babysitting. Click the link down below in the description, hop on a free call with us, and we're going to show you the exact hiring process so you can hire the best of the best anywhere they are in the world.